and welcome to a very special episode of Life Support Live, the weekly live show that helps you to boldly go in your own life to better ourselves and the rest of humanity.
Yes, as a famous starship captain once said, and as another famous starship captain once said, as you all know, wherever our mission takes us, we'll try to have a little fun along the way.
And we might be having a lot of fun today because it's a special episode. Hi, everyone. I am psychologist Dr. Ali Mattu.
And I'm Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek. One of us is actually a real doctor.
We'll leave it to you to figure out who that might be. This week we're doing something special for the holidays.
Well, it's about damn time.
It's yeah. Most of them are over with. We've got New Year's coming up, but we're squeezing in a little bit of holiday cheer with a special live watch party of one of our favorite episodes of Star Trek, The Next Generation's Tapestry. This is season 6, episode 15. Fire up your streaming watching experience of choice and get ready for that. But before we get into that, Larry, what if this is the first time for folks here at Life Support Live? What are they in for?
Well, am I frozen to you?
You're a little frozen to me, so maybe that's what they might be in for. Right?
It's the Disney Channel, actually, and we're going to be honoring Frozen. This is interesting.
Yeah.
We had a camera a minute ago. I'm seeing, yeah. Do you want to bump me out and bump me back? I don't know what's going on.
Sure, I'll bump you out. I'll bump you back. You sound good, so at least.
Well, that's good. We'll do a half
a
podcast then. Okay.
I'll kick you out and then I'll bring you back in. So, folks, if this is your first time here at Life Support Live, this is a fun community where what we do is we use Star Trek to help us better understand mental health, and we use mental health to better understand Star Trek. And usually my good friend Larry Nemecek is here. Larry, looks like you're back. Looks like we're working. Okay,
it's my front. It's my back.
Yeah.
It's my yes.
So, Larry, I was just telling our fine folks here what Life Support Live is, but you might be able to.
Don't believe what he's saying at all. No. No, we boldly. Hey, everybody, listen. Every week we boldly go through uncertain times. Can you guess that this podcast started at the beginning of the pandemic, at the beginning of the lockdown? Yeah, and you know what today, Ali, I want to say we've got a wonderful Lifers community who are popping in on the chat. There's live chat here. Today's a special format. We're going to do a watch-along of Tapestry. Everybody drink if you're familiar with the drinking game. But you may not be familiar with the drinking game or any of this. You may be a first-timer with us today, so welcome. And you especially may be coming over from the virtual TrekCon 3 audience. So if you're coming over from VTC 3, welcome. I promise you'll have a good time. An atypical, if not a good time.
Yeah, we usually run this show on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern. We took this past Saturday off in observance of some of the holidays happening, and we're doing this special live watch party just to kind of as a way of kind of doing something fun for everyone during the holidays. We do this about once a month, once every couple of months, maybe that's more, once every 3 months. I don't know. We do this every now and then.
Oh, you mean the week?
What? The watch parties. Yeah, the Life Support Live is there every week. But we every now and then we do a special live event like this where we can just get together and watch something together. So in the comments, let us know, TNG's Tapestry, what does this episode mean to you? Does it mean anything? Is it just something else? Or is it like Larry and I, an episode we quote so often on this show, that it's, or maybe me, it's become a little bit of a joke at this point, how often we reference Tapestry. But before we actually start watching it, Larry, I want to ask you this question. Tapestry, what if anything does this episode mean to you?
I don't think I'm going to be able to hold a candle to what it means to you, but aside from being just a go-to, the title is such an image, is such a metaphor for anything that's well textured, right? There are threads in a tapestry, and the old thing about if you pull on one thread, does the whole thing collapse? Or if you pull on one thread, there's others that hold it together. Or what, nothing is monolithic. It's made up of many parts, and that's what Tapestry means to me. But as a fan, watching the first time, it was a second Q show in one season, which was very rare, and at the time. And it was just a wonder. We all got it that it was a take on It's a Wonderful Life. It was the Star Trek version of that. And from the teaser, which if you haven't seen this, I don't want to spoil. Is that possible? But from the teaser through all the ramifications, it harks back to bits of Picard's background that were planted along the way earlier. And it's even got references that come up all the time in the new series Picard. So if you're coming to us only knowing the newer Trek series, you're going to see some things in Tapestry that totally flow into the plots of the arcs of the Picard first season that we just saw this year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there's a lot here to the larger tapestry of Star Trek and also of Picard's story. We get a lot of his backstory here and there in TNG, but we don't actually get to see it. For most of the characters, we don't actually get to see some of their backstory, so that's unique here. I mean, what this episode means for me, anyone who's been watching Life Support Live for a while, you've got glimpses and pieces of what this episode means to me. But at the same time, we have a lot of new folks here from Virtual TrekCon. Hi, Adam, Lisa, Daniel,
Yes.
JR Poole. Hi, new folks. For you, Tapestry, it's probably been the most meaningful episode of Star Trek that I've ever seen. It had the biggest impact on my life of any episode, largely because I saw it when I was quite young, and it left a big impression on me. This idea that our setbacks are as important as our successes. And sometimes we can learn more from our failures than we can the things that have gone well in our lives. And that idea really resonated with me. It really helped me out as I was growing up, making a ton of stupid mistakes. I never got stabbed in the back by a Nausicaan playing Dobjot. You would play Dobjot.
The other reason we mentioned that title is so you can say that line, yeah.
Oh, it's one of my favorites to say, Hubot. I also just love when the aliens say human like that. Huma.
Like no one can say human. How did they ever get space flight if they can't mock the way a native race says its own native species?
Right.
Well, if you're on lines, this is my favorite version of when Q gets to play Okie and say, delivery for Captain Jean-Luc Picard. I mean,
That's a great line. This is also a great Q episode. Not only is it a great Picard episode, but this is such a fantastic Q episode. And besides the two of them, we don't really see many of our principals in this episode, which makes for a lot of fun.
Well, you see them in the alternate in the Q. You see them in. I just had this flashback of when a Q snaps his fingers, a cadet gets his wings or something. I don't know.
A cadet gets his pips.
Yeah,
I think that's how it. I think that's how it works. From our audience over here, our community, we're getting some great responses here. Tapestry's Trek's Don't Dream It, Be It episode, as in the phrase from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Other folks who've been watching know that we love our musicals here. Nathaniel says Letting Go of Regrets. A lot of folks have mentioned it's Star Trek's It's a Wonderful Life, which is one of the reasons why we thought this might be a good one for this. Yeah, that was Larry's idea. I was saying, should we do Star Trek Generations? And Larry's like, no, we're going to do Tapestry. We're doing that.
Well, it's an hour.
yeah, that makes it, that helps.
Or 45 minutes. But anyway, on a weekday like this. But yeah.
Daniel says
that's the easy comparison.
Yeah, this is an episode I associate with Christmas. It was the first VHS I bought as a kid with my Christmas money. I also recently saw Star Trek VI for the first time, so it was my introduction. Daniel, we're having a bit of a mind meld. My introduction to Star Trek came from Star Trek 6. So I'm definitely connecting with you there.
This explains much. I don't know.
Well, we should do an episode where Larry psychoanalyzes my introduction to canon here. Let's see. Any other comments?
Did you see Jared's comment here at 1313 or at 13?
What did Jared say?
Jared says, "I'm glad I called off the drinking game this week. Some people would have liver failure by now with all these Tapestry references." It's kind of a special case.
We do, yeah. This is a little bit of an exclusion.
I want to do a shout out to Anne Marie here, who's coming over from the virtual Trek crowd and Seventh Rule and all of that team. So anyway,
hey Anne Marie, welcome aboard.
Yeah.
So I think we've got as Just Jenna says, Tapestry has a lot of nuggets. One of my favorites. Larry, what say you? Should we dive in?
Should we hit it? Now, everybody got the message. This was BYOM, right? Bring your own meat.
Yes. So we don't want to get sued by CBS. We don't want to take down requests.
I am ready to go with a sick bay emergency right here.
Okay, so folks, fire it up. It's Star Trek: The Next Generation, Season 6, Episode 15.
Episode in the middle. Okay.
You can watch it in America. You can watch it on Netflix or CBS All Access. You can watch it wherever else you are. If you don't have immediate access, pause. You can come back to this or just watch along. You probably know the episode. You can listen to us and probably know what we're talking about here. And as always, Larry, I'm going to have you count us in. We're going to go 3, 2, 1, engage. And on the engage, we're going to press play. So, Larry, count us in.
All righty. I'll do it in English, not in Galactic Standard, not Klingon this time. Okay. Okay, everybody. 3, 2, 1, engage. Oh. I wanted to have my earphone in.
Larry, I love how this episode just begins in action.
Oop. Yes. Oh, and
we're
there's
right in the sick bay. We know there's an emergency. The action is going on.
Boom.
That's a little unusual too. Usually I have a softer introduction.
And totally on the side, there's Ensign Martinez at the back there, Michael Braveheart, who is actually on the side got a GoFundMe for some medical issues. I want to pass that along to fandom.
That's a pretty bad injury right there. That
it takes
he
something
just looks like
major to get blood on these Starfleet uniforms.
Yeah, compressed Terrion beams are the worst. I mean, it looks like he's got a bunch of mud on him or like a lot of ketchup, but...
I mean, loose Terrion beams are bad, but compressed Terrion beams...
Yeah, you don't want to get a compressed Terrion beam.
Head thingies.
Yes.
Head blinkies.
I believe those are the technical terms. Medical head thingies. Tim says, quite a shocker the beginning is. Tim, I appreciate the pun.
Well, if you thought that was a shock.
So, what I like about this moment here, not only does it look like Picard is talking to the prophets, but...
I think they're about to exist, or they just barely existed, but we don't know about it yet, or something.
Right. It's pretty on par. Maybe they recycle the same effects. But this plays into some of Q's role as this quasi-godlike figure. And to me, this feels a little bit more the original series.
This is how this show started.
Tell me more.
No, this totally started as a pitch. Someone said, Picard wakes up and he's in the afterlife with Q. That was the entire origin of this story. Nobody said, hey, let's do a Star Trek take on It's a Wonderful Life. That's not how it began. That's, Oh, this is cool. I've never seen this before.
Hey, shout out to Jimmy here saying, I love the Psych Show. Jimmy, good to see you. Thanks for everything you do as a school counselor.
Oh, very nice.
Larry, let's talk about this intro sequence right here. When did they refilm the model that they used for the intro? Because I know at some point the detail on the Enterprise.
It started with when they did a redo for third season. That's when they, instead of going from outside to Earth, they go from Earth. Anyway, they flipped the approach in the solar system, and they used the third season they had the new Enterprise model that was smaller but more detailed, and it wasn't the big floppy one that separated, but it was a bitch to deal with as on the filming stand, because this was all pre-CGI, obviously, kids.
And then there's that one season where it goes Star Trek: The Next Generation, and it's really impactful. Like it has that 3D kind of effect. It's like someone got the new version of Microsoft Office and they used all the fancy clip art.
Oh, that one. And I'm not.
I love that. The inept administrations of
Q and his adjectives. You can sling 5 people down by one sentence is done.
I refuse to believe the afterlife is run by you. The universe is not so badly designed. What a line. Like, this person is telling you you're dead and you are now at sort of his disposal, but Picard is still adamant about this.
It's his dad.
So this is a big deal. We're seeing his dad for the first time.
Mm-hmm. First and only time.
And this is also fleshing out some of his backstory, that his dad wasn't necessarily supportive.
Well, we heard all this in Family in the beginning of the 4th season, but this is fleshing it out in his face. Yeah.
This is the A Beautiful Life kind of aspect too. So Larry, help me understand this a little bit. So in Generations, we hear about the Picards that settled on Mars and the Picards that were explorers. So some part of his family has spent a lot of time in space, but some part of his family really just wants to make wine.
Well, it's figured. Well, yeah. Well, he says he's the last of his line, so it really is he and his brother, and then his wife and his nephew, and they're dead now. So, the big Picard family that he gets into, he talks about in different places and is alluded to in his family scrapbook, which you don't see. It's not a big story point, but it's in Generations. The Picards were much, much bigger impact on society. Yeah.
So, Charlotte's saying Picard's showing denial here. He's definitely going through some of this grief, right? What's happened to me, and denial can be one way that plays out. Larry, do you think he's dead? Or is Q just trying to teach him a lesson now?
No, this is a Q illusion. Well, I haven't thought about this in a long time. He's got the real world, the prime timeline, actual reality heart issue going on.
Yeah.
But you don't know that maybe we'll see at the end. Does Beverly hop back and go, wow, that was a miracle? Or is it like everything they're capable of doing saved him and this is just a sidebar? Like, was it really Q that cured him at the end? I'm saying that, I'm going out on a limb here. But because everything else is fine for me to have it be a Q illusion the way he does every time. Anytime they pop off for a Q thing and come back, is that it's not real.
Yeah, I think he's saved by modern medicine.
Oh, here we go. Stunt double. Once again, Picard had hair.
So that cadet does not look like Tom Hardy to me.
Tom Hardy does not look like Tom Hardy.
And
there's
boom!
the iconic.
Have you ever seen anyone cosplay as stabbed in the back?
I know. Somewhere in the last 15 years, I've seen people cosplay as Picard with. And what's cool is they didn't need a bald cap. Okay, bald cap, I should say. So Samaritan Snare is where the whole thing about him having an artificial heart originated. Little piece.
Linda's asking, can someone tell me where we are? Linda, right now we are at about 7:59. I'm reading 37 and 10 seconds left.
Right. Same place. Wow, where'd it go?
So this is his one regret. His one regret is he's got this fake heart. He doesn't regret all the people who've died under his command. He knows that that's part of Starfleet. That comes along with being captain.
Mm-hmm.
But he regrets this idea of being young and cocky and making this brash decision.
Somewhere along the way, it struck me how Picard and Kirk were exactly opposite. I think I mentioned this before. Kirk says he was a stack of books with legs and seems to have loosened up later. And Picard starts off as the wild guy and tightens up. You know, it's like they're
when does Kirk say that he was sort of this bookworm?
Something about he says something about Grimm. Well, I was absolutely I was a stack of books with legs or something like that.
We've got a question from
somebody will pop it in here.
Daniel has a question. Was there any blowback from the network on the stabbing?
I don't think so. Well, there was no network.
Yeah, it was syndicated.
So they had the freedom to do it. No. And Marta Botanides pops back up again as a friend of Rios's captain. I've forgotten the link exactly. But I about fell off my chair when they mentioned her.
Scott says, back in the day when this aired, I was amazed by the continuity, with Samaritan Snare. That was rare for Trek TV back then.
Especially to bridge they weren't really good about the second to third season break. There was a lot of corporate memory break between pre and post Pillar. But this is Ron's behind this show, I think. So that figures. He was a fanboy.
So, I think we see. So, Tim is commenting on seeing Picard in the motion picture era costume. I think we see Kirk in that costume. We see Picard. I think we see. Do we see Janeway in that uniform in Flashback? I think we might.
Or does she keep her own? She's a part of the memory. Tuvok is in the uniform, but not Janeway because she wasn't really there.
I think at one point she wears it.
I'm gonna say that it's hard for them not to have gotten everybody into it, but yeah, I don't think.
I don't think Sisko gets into it. He gets into the TOS era costume.
Yeah.
But I always love this motion picture era costume. I think it's the best uniform they've done. It feels the most naval.
Watch how you say motion picture, because I think of motion picture, I think of the motion picture.
Right. No, I mean Wrath of Khan era. You're right.
The marching maroons, yeah.
Yeah.
The monster maroons, I should say.
Not the pajamas from motion picture.
No. I always loved how they called the original series uniforms pajamas, and I'm like, oh yeah, motion picture says, hold my nighttime Anadel milk. Okay.
So I love that Picard is still concerned about this greater good, about messing with the timeline.
Mm-hmm. Q's got his swagger stick from first season. What was that? Q? Yeah.
Right.
Mon Capitan. There you go. See? In my little... my little machismo.
So any behind the scenes details on these sets?
Well, this is supposed to be his cadet room. I was just thinking about a couple things I hadn't thought of in a long time, because I always I want to check this before I say it. Because I always think of the first duty as the first time we see this is getting anal, a Starfleet Academy dorm room.
Yeah, all those times we've been at Starfleet Academy, I don't think we've actually seen anyone's room.
Yeah, it was. First duty is 5th season. I was confused 5th or 6th.
Oh.
So yeah, first duty was still the first time.
Okay.
This is a redo, yeah.
Trek on the Tube says Mon Capitaine is neither French nor Spanish.
Yeah, it's cute.
Welcome to Fred Erica 27. Thanks for joining us here.
Or Frederica, yeah. And Lilliput? Lilliput? Okay, right behind that.
So this is great here to see Picard starting to smile right now and reminiscing about how he got caught.
Oh, the Academy did. Yeah.
Making these double dates.
He was a wild man. See?
So, just a little fun tidbit about how memory works. In case you might be wondering, well, how does he remember these details? It's been decades since this moment. Our recall is highly influenced by what's around us and the details around us. And sometimes when all the details align up, we can remember details that we wouldn't otherwise be able to. So it's kind of like when you're trying to remember a song. If you're just trying to remember the lyrics on its own, it's hard. But once you start to hear the music, you can all the lyrics can sort of flood back into your memory. I think the same, or back into your awareness. The same thing's probably happening with Picard. He's back in the space. All these details are coming back to him. Much like for any of us, if we were visiting a place we haven't been to in a long time, we'd start to remember all these details.
And apparently olfactory smells are bringing it back too.
Olfactory, yeah. Olfactory, the technical name for smell.
Opposed to new factory, yeah.
Easy way to remember that. I always teach my intro psych students this. Old factories smell bad. That's how you remember what olfactory means. And water to the face.
Always an easily filmed, it's very splashy.
He's on fire this episode. Penny, for your thoughts. So, Picard is he's approaching the same decisions as the way an older Picard does. How old do you think Picard is at this point in the timeline? Both in the Academy as well as future Picard.
Well, he's 22. If he's a graduating cadet on schedule, he's 22-ish.
So he's 22 Academy days, and how old is...
Look at that. Did you see that? An Antikin and a Seeley. And a Tailhead, who never got a name unless they've named him in the game by now, in STO by now.
The way Discovery's been going, we might be seeing some of these folks again. Some of these alien races, I should say. How old is present-day Picard, Larry, do you think? He's in his 40s, 50s?
If you're going to prep me on these things off the top of your head, Picard is older than Patrick is.
Yes.
He's 80-something, isn't he? He's like 10 or 12 years older than real Patrick, and real Patrick was 79 or 80, so...
And at the time of this filming, which was the early 90s...
This is 93.
So that's... Let's see if we can do math live on air right now.
Early 93, yes.
So...
Oh, here's your line.
Play dumb John Human. So this is about 30 years ago. So Picard's middle age, let's say, at this point. So imagine revisiting decisions you made 3-4 decades ago. you would approach them so differently. Like
Here's Picard making his Empress Georgiou the second.
Yes.
Somebody
Which
mentioned Terraformer Irma on early on. Yeah.
That was another reason why we wanted to revisit this episode. Discovery just kind of redid it.
Yeah. People were so excited to be back in the Terran Empire, and it's like, but it's not real.
So, a few things about aging. In general, most people, as they get older, they get better at dealing with their emotions. Their emotions are less intense. They've also learned more ways to deal with them. So it makes sense that if a middle-aged Picard was going back to 21, 22-year-old and trying to make those same decisions, he's approaching them completely differently. Like the accelerator on his emotions doesn't really work as quickly, and the brakes work much better. So it would be a very different experience, just emotionally living your day-to-day life.
Oh my gosh, yeah, because you double think everything, or you would want to change half of what you did.
Oh yeah,
just for the benefit of years and wisdom.
Yeah, I think back to a lot of decisions I made in my late teenage years, early 20s, and sometimes you're like, why did I even do that? Why did I even say that? Something else that's at play here is your frontal lobe, which is this area of your brain right over here. It's largely responsible for planning for the future, for controlling your emotions. It doesn't finish developing until your mid-20s. So Picard is coming back to this time with a very different brain than he had at in his early 20s. Oh, and there's a predator. I mean, Nausicaan.
Here is a K3 for you. There's a couple of Nausicaans here. So the tall one is Tom Morga, who has been like a stuntman forever, and did the monster that Kirk fought in Star Trek VI, a million other things. And it's either this scene or the scene where there's the full blown scene where there's two Nausicaans. They redo it later. And the second Nausicaan, the shorter one, is Nick Dimitri, who was the bandito in A Fistful of Datas. He was the cab driver in Emergence. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great little tidbit. It's also nice to see Starfleet officers being so human and kind of petty and taking it personally.
wait, this is so un-Star Trek. Gene would never have allowed. Actually, this is Ron and pushing it. They're cadets. They're allowed to be. You say they're. Oh, excuse me. They're not cadets. They're officers.
They're officers now, Larry. It's so like, refreshing.
This is like 18-year-olds in high school going, we're adults now. Yeah. We're not students. We're not kids.
I mean, this is really before DS9 has taken off and become its own thing. DS9 is really just coming online right now. So to see humans act so human in the next generation is so refreshing.
To see them act so young and reckless and their kids.
Nathaniel says, considering all the neurological development that occurs, wouldn't it have been presumptuous to say that pre-adolescent Picard might command a ship in Rascals? I love Rascals, says Anne-Marie. It makes me think of, what's the Red Squad episode in Deep Space Nine? Valiant?
Right.
It makes me think of Valiant and why that's such a horrible idea to put... a bunch of folks who
that's the whole point. It wasn't. Oh, here we go.
Yeah. John It gets me every time. he's so teasing him throughout this episode so much. Now, is it?
It's this whole Q dynamic where Q starts off as this super villain, super threat, and then they soften him up, and then he's human for a while, and then he comes back, and then he just turns into the jester, and then they go back to, then there's the ominous, it's a thing they played with all back and forth, all too well, and Delancey handles it all, but.
So I'm going to ask you a Picard Q question, Larry, that is impossible to answer, but I'm still going to ask it.
Of course.
Because it's a Q. Yeah, it's Q related. Is he teasing or is he bullying Picard? I think that's something that comes up a lot in fandom, is teasing and bullying. What are we seeing happen here?
Ali, does this come up in psychotherapy and in therapy debates? Is it teasing or is it bullying when you probe and push a patient?
This comes up all the time. This
Doctor,
comes up all
heal
the time.
thyself.
Larry, I see what you did there.
Or
the old you with a little Q whip, you gotta turn it around. Teasing is so apart in different cultures about how we, especially boys and men, how they show affection for each other. But it can be very hard to know, when does that become bullying and when does that become malicious? When is it less showing affection and when is it more aggression? And when is it really meant to hurt you? And I think that's the question of Q, is how much is he trying to help Picard? Because by the time we get to All Good Things, he's not only trying to help Picard, but also humanity. Or he started the whole thing and, he was just having a bunch of fun. But I think, I never thought about this before until we're watching this now, but I think Q brings up this idea of teasing versus bullying, and I don't know if there's a right answer here.
Well, he's a super alien who doesn't ever finish him off. So, I don't know.
I'm getting lots of folks are asking about this jacket, as Anne-Marie did. This is from Hero Within. It's very lovely. It's got a little Starfleet badge over here. I've got there's a beautiful
this is from the
nebula
Mattu
blue
universe
lining. Yeah. This is not canon, but it's close to it. So check out Hero Within. A good friend of mine runs that company, Tony Kim. Really good people, good stuff out there. And you can it comes with every captain here.
Sir. Okay. What?
Okay. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming.
So this is you see the Trapunto collars in the actual original movies, and then a lot of times you'd see them wearing these, like the Enterprise C crew, and other one-off times didn't have anything, didn't have any kind of undershirt under the marching maroon.
Right.
So the monster maroon, and this is a one-off time when they tried to use, and they're using colored T-shirts. He's got white, and she's got a blue-gray, and kind of getting back to the originals.
Did they, Larry? You think they did? In the prime?
What?
In the prime timeline?
What, the two of them?
Yeah.
Well, that's the whole point. They didn't. You mean later?
So they never did.
What?
But like actual Picard.
No, I'm saying he's revisiting the regret that they didn't.
Right.
And then when he does, it messes everything up.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No. Oh right. I forgot what's just about to happen. Thank you, Larry.
Are you sure when you keep saying tapestry, you're not referring to, I don't know, Aquiel or something? Are you?
I forgot. It's been a while since I've seen this episode.
This is the whole, yeah. Oh, so spoilers, everybody. No, it misses. Oh, look, it's a shirt on the floor. I'll see your Kirk putting on his boots. And raise you a couple. Okay.
Yeah. I forgot this was our promotional image right over here. I forgot this happens. Yes, thank you.
The nature magnifying art there at the head of the bed.
Morning.
I don't. Notice how I never thought about this. The conscious decision when Q is wearing a Starfleet uniform, he always has captains. He doesn't ever have like admiral's pips or go blank.
Well, that's the thing is he's got this fascination with Captain Picard and Captain Janeway, and later a little bit Captain or Commander Sisko until he gets punched in the fish. Yeah. So I don't know why Q has this fascination with humans and in particular captains.
Oh, when we have a break, I came into a cache of notes that from the companion and some things that didn't make it into the companion.
This is as good of a chance as any. There's no commercial breaks.
So the actual premise for this was a premise that Ron had called he just called it a Q Carol, and it was very Christmassy. And the original thing was they go back to France and they have a scene with his father and his mother and his brother as kids. And then the Nausicaan scene, and then a Stargazer scene, maybe with Jack Crusher. Oh. That was the original idea.
Oh, interesting.
And maybe it was even the Jack Crusher death scene, but it didn't. And they thought it was just too all over the place and too many sets and changes, and they just wanted to focus. So they decided just to focus on one incident. So they focused on the stabbing in his artificial heart.
So I forgot that this happens because I'm so focused on the Nausicaans and the big change that happens. But
Tapestry, it's more than the Nausicaans. I have to tell the psychologist that. Okay.
Well, when it comes to canon, Larry, you're often my canon therapist here. So I think there's a lot of people who think back about past relationships that could have been or weren't, and we have a lot of regret, and we churn about what if I had done this. Now, this whole episode is very much about not getting stabbed in the back, but it's also about this moment, about this regret he has, and one of the reasons why regret can be so futile is we have no idea how those things would have played out.
Right.
And that happens all the time with relationships.
And that's why this kind of the fantasy is always so attractive as a story device, right? I mean, to be able to go back and redo our past.
Yeah, there's this concept called affective forecasting, which means predicting how we're going to feel in the future. And we do it all the time. Like, if only I had this, I would feel so much better. If only I am able to do that, my life is going to be great. I'm going to be so happy. And like decades of research has shown, we're horrible at predicting how we're going to feel in the future. We just don't know what those circumstances are going to be like. And similarly, we can't do time travel. But if we had the ability to go back into the past and change our decisions, we have no idea how that would impact the way we feel or how other people feel. Oh man, he is so alienated now. His closest friends.
Oh, here they come. So the tall one is Tom Morga, and the secondary one is Nick Dimitri. With a lit up air filter on your...
Give you a bigger stick. Larry, I gotta say, Star Trek bars, they really look like a pretty horrible place.
Well, you can't be a bar unless you've got that open kind of circular grid. It's in Quarks, it's in the bar on Quailer 2, I think it's in this.
Yeah, besides Quarks, I don't think we've seen a decent bar in Star Trek.
Well, not in, I don't know if you want to, well, they're the quaint old bars on Earth. The Archer, or like the 602.
Oh, yeah. The Earthbound ones are pretty
earthy.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
But these slimy alien bars are like, yeah. I was like really cold at the beginning, but now I've got like a ton of K3 factor stuff to throw at you.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, this is the recognition effect going on in your memory. All these memories are being triggered here.
No, it's just called. I finally got my notes file open.
There's that too. A nice little memory aid. Oh, Scott says 10 forward looks lovely. 10 forward looks fine. It doesn't quite look like the kind of place where
it's a Starfleet. It's Starfleet architecture adapted, so that's, yeah.
All right, now when I first saw this episode and I saw this moment, I was like, what is happening?
The blue shirt.
How many people do you think Starfleet assigns to deliver pads? This seems like a huge part of the workforce. Larry.
This is what I've noticed in modern era Star Trek and the Kelvin movies and in Lower Decks and no one ever uses combat and Picard and they do in Picard, but in Discovery and in Lower Decks everybody runs everywhere and delivers messages. It's like they forget and they call externally, but they forget they have an intra-ship comm system.
Yeah,
I've noticed that in the Kelvin universe they don't just walk there, they run there. Now, he was taking something to Geordi. There was a cut scene where they wrote a scene with him going to engineering.
Star Trek, I think, it's nailed a lot of technology and inspired a lot of future technology, but some of the communication stuff here, like email, doesn't really happen. And the thing with comm badges in TNG that I never really liked is it always seems like an open communication that everyone can hear. Whereas in TOS, at least with the old style communicators,
you train your fingertip. You have smart computers and really adept fingertip control. When you hit that badge, it's like it's
the degree
their
of
ears only. Yeah.
Yeah.
Blue shirts.
Wow, Lieutenant Junior grade. His career really hasn't.
But he's still higher than Harry Kim.
All right, so here we got the 10 forward bar. So, Scott, here's the thing with this. This looks fine. It kind of has the vibe of a airport hotel bar. That's what it kind of feels like to me. It's fine. But there's no the Trouble with Tribble style brawl that's going to erupt here. All right. This is Deanna Troi doing a very much military psychologist thing. A lot of military psychologists are also in the position of a human resources performance evaluation type of role. And it's wonderful to see her actually doing a performance review with Riker. I think this is very realistic here.
It became a kind of a token thing between them. Like if they're in a scene, they go, well, I got to go do some more performance reports or whatever. But it was good. Yeah, better than I'm going to go off and play some jazz. Or Do they have actual jobs?
Scott saying 10 forward is a lounge, and that's a bit more of his speed. I agree with that. Scott, I think this would be a great place to have a root beer.
Because hopeful Starfleet is just a mirage for you, bucko. Okay. I was trying to remember who. So Les Landau directed this. He started as a first AD and then was one of the top 3 or 4 directors for Next Gen and all of the Berman era.
So Picard had these big goals, never really put in what it takes to follow that up. This is also one of the rare times where we get to see a lower decker before we have lower decks, the episode or the show.
Yeah, exactly. And the two of them are in their personas they had. Riker and Troy are like in their Laura Decker persona that you see again.
Yes. Yes. We see Barclay as a character that is struggling, but Barclay is also sometimes there's some aspects of like anxiety that I love in Barclay, but there's some aspects that are a bit more just comedic, and he's a bit more of a like a court jester that people make fun of. This feels very real to me. There's definitely times in my life where I've felt more like this version of Picard.
Always stand in front of an elevator door talking about something before you
I know, yeah.
with a pad up in the middle of the doorway. Yeah, that's what everyone does. Or a tedious man at a jury job.
And we're back to the afterlife here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think many of us feel that way, that we're in a tedious job where we might feel bereft of passion.
Mm-hmm.
I just watched Pixar's Soul this weekend, and there's a very similar theme there in that film. And I think there's reasons why these episodes, these types of stories, keep playing out over and over. Is they're tapping into something that we all experience. They're tapping into this as Carl Jung would say, this larger tapestry of stories, these universal tapestry of stories.
Remind me before we end, and I'll read you Michael Pillar's comments about this show when we have a long break.
Q's outline. Now I'm gonna outline the biggest.
Your
reason
greatest
why I
hits. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Let me. Yeah. Larry knows you so well.
Where you throw in the unknown with the known. Even here, you saved the Milica 3 ambassador, and then you took charge on the Stargazer bridge. It's like, oh, so we equalize that with that. And has anyone ever told the Milica 3 story? No. What's going on, world?
So.
Oh yes, we're afraid.
So this is why I love this episode so much. What we see here is what could have been if Picard didn't experience that traumatic event. Now, I want to be very clear here. I'm not saying that trauma is ever a good thing. But for some people who experience trauma, it leads to something called post-traumatic growth. And that's what we see has happened to Picard. That Picard's brush with death changed the way he sees life, changed the way he lives life, changed his priorities. And it wasn't an immediate thing, probably. It was probably something he struggled with as he was recovering from all of this. So that's one thing that really sticks out to me now as a psychologist is this is a beautiful episode about post-traumatic growth. How
and bar fights. Oh no.
And bar fights. For some people, their relationships change. They have an increased sense of strength. They appreciate life more. Their beliefs change. And all of this can happen while you might be in the pain of a trauma and also growing. Those things can happen at the same time.
Now, here's a K3. You would think that a moment like this would be a big focus, right? They'd have a set photographer there to take special nothing. For years and years and years, we had to do crappy frame grabs of that moment because it's I know that's totally on the side, but
here's the reveal.
Did he ever really die? Was it always in their hands to bring?
Did it all happen in a blink of a Q?
In a Q
wave?
Flash. That's called
a Q flash.
Yeah, that's what visual effects called it. And then, okay, now we need a Q flash. But the point is, it's not like Q. People think Q brought him back from death and saved him. I think it was going to happen all along. It's just that his mind went there. And
oh, what a beautiful ship! I love these shots of the Enterprise D.
And reflections in the black observation lounge window.
Oh yeah, it's so beautifully shot.
Polish, polish, polish. Now, here's the thing you forget a lot. Here's Picard confiding in Riker what he just experienced.
Yeah. Yeah.
Part of
Yeah.
training.
You'd think Troy would be sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
But so here's one thing I want to say also about
guy scene is what this is.
One of the things about post-traumatic growth that seems to be really critical to helping... Oh, here's a line. Loose threads. It unraveled the tapestry of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Ah. Mwah. Beautiful writing. Beautiful writing.
Ron still appreciates your comment. Thank you, I'm sure.
But the thing I love about this this moment right here is what seems to be really important to growth, to post-traumatic growth, is processing it. Mm-hmm. That means talking to other people about it, writing about it, sometimes therapy related to these experiences, but continuing to revisit them, getting new perspectives, working through them, and that's what he's doing with Riker.
Brandon Braga, story editor.
The story.
The boys are all boys still.
Larry, you wanted to tell me, was it Rick Berman or Micah Pillar's
Well, Micah Pillar, especially since he's no longer with us, and he's probably said this. They probably have interviews saying this kind of thing, but he's just. I have some comments here from him to me when we were doing stuff. They filmed this about Christmas time, and he wasn't happy. He thought a lot of the performances were flat because people were tired right before the holiday.
Huh.
But he just thought it was a slow show, and Patrick was tired. And but he says, but everybody loves it, and he wasn't happy with some of the casting, but he's thrilled that everybody loves it, and he liked the idea, and he's just talking about the ultimate, the thing, the output.
Yeah, I don't see those things at all, and maybe if I was on the set and looking at all the takes, maybe I would feel that way. But
him he was always good to be super critical about things.
Linda says, double fist axe, the great Starfleet maneuver. I don't know how that was a TOS thing that carries through all the way. I think until we see the Kelvin timeline.
We call it an SSM, standard Starfleet maneuver. Yeah, I'm going to apologize, everybody. I haven't. I know we're going to wrap up a little much sooner than we normally do here on today. We all have tight schedules on this end, but I'm apologizing for not having been up on the chat very much. I've been scanning my notes and things to throw at everybody because that's what we're doing here. And I just wanted to. There was one moment, now I can't do this, but because you were in the middle of something, I didn't want to interrupt you. But there's one moment when the three of them are in the bar, the three cadets are in the bar, and there's an alien goes by that you see a lot on DS9. It's kind of a greenish brown, and it has a lot of kind of a bubbly headed top head, and it was never named on screen. It was never named in canon, but on DS9, they started calling it a Rotziv because the extra who always wore that outfit and that headpiece, his name was Victor Sein, S-E-I-N, and so they started calling that alien head, and then eventually when other people wore it, they called it a Rotziv, which was Victor spelled backwards. That was
nice.
That was a
like
Westport, a dumb little goofy thing. The other thing was there were some cut scenes. I told you about the Geordie, right?
He's not even in this episode.
He has that one voiceover. He has that one line on the radio, on the comm line. There were some lines that were cut for time. One of them where someone says that a third of incoming Academy freshmen wash out and don't make it all the way through to graduation. Like it's tough. Picard.
How many? Wait, say that again. A third?
Somebody says that a third of incoming Academy freshmen don't make it to the end. Wow. So it's tough. It's tough, guys. Yeah. That Picard's superintendent was named Admiral Salona, which may have been the Betazoid he once mentioned, like it was a throwback, and that there's some reference to a Scobie Hall, which is a reference to Dick Scobie, who was the captain of the Challenger shuttle that died. These are all cut lines, though, and cut scenes. And but you did hear Dr. Solar at the beginning. I just wanted to throw that in there. Susie Plaxton's only one time, but many times mentioned things. And Penny, his older date that he'd gone out with and probably done more with at the beginning that throws water on him, was named for an older woman that Ron had dated once. Ron Moore. So anyway, I love people when they pull names and things out of their back pocket there.
It's been a lot of fun to see the comments on this episode. One comment I want to ask you, Larry, as we kind of start to wrap up, this episode asks a very interesting question. Can our lives revolve around one decision? Daniel's asking that one. The clear answer for me is absolutely yes.
Yeah. Yes. Especially if it's a bad decision.
I think, and if it's a good one, I think both ways.
Right.
And we had a comment here. Oh gosh, I'm going to try to pull it up. Linda says, "Be proud of your past mistakes and all is made you who you are, or made you what you are today." And I think that's absolutely true. Very small decisions like where my locker was my freshman year of high school led me to meet the person who eventually became my wife.
Wow.
That was a random thing. And I've made a ton of mistakes in my past. I was not a good high school student at all, nearly failed. And a lot of those decisions led me to discover psychology, which led me here. Things don't make sense when you're in the middle of them. They can make sense in retrospect. But we never see how all of these decisions are tied to that larger tapestry of our lives. We just have to make the best decisions we can given the situations we're in and what we value, and then learn from those experiences. And as long as we're learning from them, they're not failures. We're growing.
Absolutely. You know, it struck me too. We talk about that tug on the thread of your tapestry. You know, it's like that's a physicality. Like you pull you physically, literally pull a thread out of a tapestry, out of a piece of clothing or a fabric, and it can start unraveling and fall apart. And Q's little, Q-scapades here are...
Q-scapades.
I don't know. I just made that up.
I like that. No, I like it.
Okay, hashtag trademark. It's like the metaphor is pulling a thread from a tapestry and watching it unravel, but Q is embodying, he's making it whole, even though it goes away in a flash. He's making it whole, but we do that to ourselves. We may not physically get a time travel trip to do that, but when we ruminate, you were talking about, if we don't watch out and we let our regrets take over, or replay, sometimes we replay a moment a day or two ago, or something we did just recently. Oh, I wish I'd done that better. It could have been with work. It could have been with a significant other. It could have been with our very significant other, or kids, or anything, or a choice we made. And, maybe we do it and then we go on. But if it's something that sticks with us for a long time and we're still going back to something like the big regrets of your life, and we ruminate too much, it's almost like, no, you don't physically pull a thread out of a tapestry. You don't physically have Q or a time machine to take you back and physically play out what would have happened. It's almost like that would be a relief. I mean, to say in contrast to just keeping, if it's really something you ruminate over and you dwell on, and it's been years, and that's holding you back, and you're so taken up with that regret. It's almost like going back. It's almost like a relief, is what I'm trying to say. Picard, actually, it's not like this, regret about the way he handled the stabbing, and then the dominoes falling, whether he would have slept with Marta or not, kind of a thing. It's like he had the luxury of living it out, even though it was painful and discomforting, and he didn't know where the hell where this was leading to. It was almost like a relief that he got to do it and go, oh, you know what? If I ever start to regret any of these things, I'm going to shut up because I can see what would have happened.
Well, that's why
in real life, if we don't get some distance to ourselves, we'll sit and ruminate on those things to our detriment, and they will affect our behavior. Where again, he was a bold captain and advanced up the ladder and took chances, and he had been cowed from that by this one moment. And
this brings it all full circle.
If we can't learn from that, the worst thing to do is sit and replay it with no.
Yes. I 100% agree with you, and this brings it full circle for me. This is why this episode means so much to me, is when I was in those moments in my life, I think about this experience that Picard went through. Because this is a bit of a gift that Q gives him. That, like, you don't have to regret this anymore. You've seen how this has played out. You've seen how this is a part of your larger tapestry of your life. Please forgive yourself and move forward. And that's the times in my life where I've gotten stuck with that kind of regret. I just think back to this moment and think about, well, how is this going to be a larger part of my life? How can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? How can I use this to make myself better? This bad mistake I've made. So I love it. I love this episode for that reason.
So the sequel to the show would be called It's a Wonderful Life Again. Tapestry 2 would be where Q never interfered at this moment. Beverly does restart his heart and cures his issue, and he comes away from it he's still regretting the fact that he's a captain, but he comes to the point where he realizes he had a near-death experience without Q's benefit of the insight of reliving it all. So suddenly, at this advanced age, he starts regretting the Domjot fight even more than he ever did before.
Well,
and then we watch the history diverge as everything he did going on to be admiral and all the big things he did through the movies and First Contact and defeating the Borg Queen and Insurrection, and now how he handles himself through Picard and dealing with this, all of that stuff. And it's like his career fizzles when he's.
I have to interrupt here, Larry.
Takes him down, and he doesn't have the stuff to rise above all these things he keeps rising above.
Trek on the Tube says it could be called Tapestry, and then Tapestry, and Anne Marie says Two Tapestry, Too Furious.
And at the very end of the Picard season, when he dies for real, and they're like, "Look, we have this Gollum bite," but she's like, "No, I'm tired. Don't do that."
Well,
I'm tired.
And we see Picard struggling with regret in Star Trek Picard, so I think this is something
Spoilers.
that he gravitates to. Yeah, I will say my other favorite episode of Star Trek is In the Pale Moonlight, and it plays on very similar ideas as Tapestry. And maybe that's an episode we can revisit sometime in the future. Larry, I'm going to have to start playing what is affectionately known as the sad music here. Anne-Marie has been asking, when do you do this? When can I watch the next Watchalong? Well, Anne-Marie, you can join us every Saturday for Live Support Live. We don't do a Watchalong every week, but this kind of conversation happens all the time. So if you like this, folks, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/LifeSupportLive.
We have a lot more time for chat interaction, too.
Yes. Yeah, those episodes are usually 2 hours long on Saturdays, Saturday at 10 p.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern. We're live. We do a much bigger conversation. Larry, where can people find more of your stuff? You got a lot of stuff going on this week.
At Larry Nemecek on Twitter and Larry Nemecek's Trekland. Where you're watching right now on Facebook is my Facebook page, and this is my YouTube channel, so please like and subscribe to YouTube if you haven't before. And tomorrow, we'll be back on normal schedule, Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Eastern, I did it again, with my Trekland Tuesdays Live that I've been doing since 2017, way before people were doing live shows. And we'll be back on Saturday. And what else is going on this week? Right now, there is my holiday gift offer at Portal 47 is still going on. Portal 47 in a box, we're calling it. So if you didn't get the Star Trek gift you deserve this Christmas, just go treat yourself or give someone else a late gift.
Yeah, folks, I am at Mattu on Twitter and other social media. You can find more of my psychology ramblings at the Psych Show on YouTube. And Larry, with this, we are wrapping up Life Support Live for 2020.
Wow.
We will be back. It's kicking off a new year. We always said we're going to do this for the duration of the pandemic. I hope next year is the last year we are in this way.
Yes, buddy. We'll have a bright, shiny show Saturday, and this is our last one of 2020. So yeah, what a year it's been. But here you go, Tapestry. If not for the pandemic, we wouldn't be doing this right now.
We wouldn't be doing this. Yeah, there we go. We're making the most of it. Larry, it's been a pleasure, privilege, and honor. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Saturday, a lot of you, or see you around the sector.
Happy New Year, and live long and prosper, folks.
Yeah, everybody. Trek well.